My name is Maureen, and I'm 36 years old. I work as a caregiver in Houston, Texas, and I reside there. This is my experience of almost dying. My purpose is not to persuade you of anything. All I want to do is tell you what happened to me, what I saw, and how I felt. My near-death experience and the most alive feeling I've ever had are described here. I'm Maureen, and I've been providing care for more than 9 years. Because of the nature of my work, I have witnessed life and death more times than I can count. Yet, I have never believed in near-death experiences. I believed I knew where the line between them was. However, that line became hazy one evening in 2003, and I crossed it. During a serious viral outbreak, it began with a normal call. I had no idea the call would take me on a journey I could never have predicted. That night, I passed away. Clinically, momentarily, but definitely passed away. And everything I believed to be true about life, death, and the essence of our existence was altered by what I went through during those hours. I recall the moment clearly, standing over an elderly patient, attaching an oxygen mask to her face, when she breathed her relief directly into my lung. If that's not a direct exposure, I don't know what is, I thought to myself, not realizing the enormous truth concealed in that offhand comment. After a terrifying few days of sickness and a mad dash to the hospital, there was something quite different, something stunning, horrifying, and completely changing. I can't help but smile as I sit here and try to describe an event that is beyond words. Years later, the recollection still makes me feel happy and warm in ways that are difficult to put into words. However, I will make every effort to accompany you on this voyage. I'm not here to persuade you of anything, to reiterate. I can't demonstrate it, and I don't expect everyone to accept it. Portland was experiencing a severe virus outbreak in 2003. In Houston, Texas, I was employed as a caregiver. As a member of a fast response team, I was assigned to an elderly ward. There was a serious virus outbreak going on at the time. People were becoming sick all over the place and the hospitals were overcrowded. We received a call from a home number. We discovered an old woman in critical condition when we got there. She was in her bedroom under quarantine and things were becoming worse very quickly. All vital signs were abnormally high. We realized we needed to move quickly. I snatched up the oxygen tank and hurried over to her. She exhaled a deep sigh of relief as I was putting the mask on her face. I could feel her breath filling my lungs as I was taking a deep breath. Well, if that's not a direct exposure, I don't know what is, I recall thinking. A few days later, I took a serious blow. I mean, as hard as hell. I alternated between shivering and sweating while I was bedridden. Even just getting to the restroom was difficult. My condition had deteriorated by the third day. I hardly recognized the person peering back at me when I caught a peek of myself in the mirror. My eyes were sunken and my skin looked clammy and pale. I think my heart was beating at a rate of 140 beats per minute. I attempted using my wrist to feel for my pulse, but I was unable to do so. I realized my blood pressure had dropped at that point. My brother's wife answered the phone when I tried to reach him. I attempted to clarify the situation. However, my voice was hardly audible. As soon as she realized anything was amiss, she hung up to dial 911. Houston Fire and Rescue's EMTs showed up promptly. They were amazing. They started high-flow intravenous fluids right away to treat my extreme dehydration. There was complete mayhem as they hurried me to the hospital. Both adults and children with this dangerous infection were crammed into the emergency room. They kept switching out my IV bags and were able to get me a bed. They informed me that they had pumped me full of 13 liters of fluids by the time I was released the following day. Something went wrong while they were attempting to stabilize my system. I don't hold anyone responsible because it resulted in an experience that I think was predestined. A nurse entered and informed everyone that they were all receiving 2 prescriptions, an antiemetic and a pain reliever that was comparable to morphine. My spouse was there and I was sitting up and feeling a little better. The nurse maintained that the doctor hadn't seen me, so I assumed I could be allowed to return home yet, and all patients were required to follow these conventional orders. As soon as she gave me the medication via my IV port, I passed out. It scared everyone half to death, according to my husband. They came in quickly and gave me Narcan, an opioid counteragent. They apparently had to give me 3 doses, but I had no intention of returning. I spent the night in the intensive care unit, where I was connected to numerous tubes and machines. My spouse later told me about this, but I don't recall any of it. He was with me the entire time. I departed from my body at some time throughout the night. All of a sudden, I was flying across a vast expanse of stars. It all comes flooding back every time I tell this section of the narrative, and I can't help but smile. I was soaring through this amazing cosmos. All around me were these lovely, hospitable stars and orbs. I had the impression that I was being led through a welcoming celebration in heaven. I felt every emotion a person could ever desire. They were indescribable, whole, utter happiness. I couldn't stop asking myself, how in the world did I ever think I was just that person? My strong identification with my earthly self, with all of its apparent imperfections and emotional triggers, seemed ridiculous. Everything vanished, leaving only the physical manifestation of Maureen Jenkins. That's me, by the way. Even though I was fully aware of every detail and memory of Maureen's life, I felt totally cut off from it. Please understand that I like Maureen. She is a decent individual, but I didn't want to go back to that constrained life just then. The idea of returning to my body was unimaginable. My bodily shape felt as disposable as a used coffee cup, even though I was vividly aware that it was someplace behind me. Now, what use was it to me? Everything abruptly changed as I was soaring through this realm of unadulterated ecstasy. I discovered that I was in a stable area with indirect illumination. The place had the appearance of an unearthly medical center, complete with gurneys and equipment suspended from the ceiling. These creatures were directly before me, 3 hooded short figures. They bore a striking resemblance to the aliens in the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. They were squat little beings with black hoods and broad, amiable smiles. Since then, I've gotten emails from people who have seen similar things, thanking me for sharing because they believed they were the only ones who saw these creatures. How was your experience? Was one of the questions they were asking me. What did you discover? Could you tell us something? I was completely perplexed. She doesn't remember us, exclaimed one of them after entering the room and giving me a long look before turning to face the others. Everyone burst out laughing, and I thought I was missing some cosmic inside joke. Well, guys, you'll have to pardon me, I said. In my opinion, all of this is really odd. Give me a moment to catch up, but I kind of remember you. They simply continued to bounce about and giggle. They were amazing, joyful, and mischievous. Then there was another creature. He appeared to be in charge, watching in the distance. He had a very happy smile and was tall and wispy. His brows were up, his eyes were wide open, and he was beaming with delight and love. He was obviously in charge, yet he was the kind of boss that everyone aspires to have. Friendly, encouraging, and kind. I was overcome with emotion when he came up to me. My chest grew and my throat constricted. I was afraid I could start crying uncontrollably with happiness. This entity was radiating love that was so pure and intense that it nearly paralyzed. I fell in love with him right away, and I really loved those small guys. I can't remember the precise terms of the back and forth conversation, but it was there. This tall creature would laugh whenever I spoke. I could sense the resonance of his laughter within me. In retrospect, it resembled the bond between a father and child, unwavering love and tender laughter at the child's struggles to make sense of the world. I once said, "I'm not going back there. Never, ever, ever." I suppose I should go on from here, eventually. What comes next? A review of one's life? Shall we begin with that first? He laughed so hard at that. It resembled a father laughing at a young child who was attempting to assert control. Sure, let's do that, he said. How do you want to start? I then began to speak. I told tales about routes I had not followed in my life, such as when my spouse and I received offers to work as caregivers on a secluded island off the coast of Washington. We would have taken care of the wildlife while living there by ourselves. From the mainland, the boat voyage took 2 hours. It was exactly what my husband wanted, so he was all with it. But I decided to continue working as a carer. I still wanted to experience the thrill of responding to emergencies. He hardly ever asked for anything, but he truly desired that adventure, so I felt bad for not seizing the chance for him. I mentioned a few more lost chances and regrets, but it soon became apparent that nobody was paying any attention. These earthly worries didn't appear to disturb them. It was clear that I had been taken there for a brief check-in rather than a final judgment. My life wasn't over and I wasn't staying. The only person in the room who was unaware of that was me. The tall creature eventually moved forward and declared, "All right, that's enough. It's time to return." I was blown away. "What? Return? I will not return there, not at all." Calmly he answered, "Yes, you must return. You have critical tasks to complete." The three small creatures vanished, seemingly reassigned to different tasks. Now it was just me and the tall creature. I could feel myself drifting away as he got closer. I felt as like I was being transferred to a different frequency as the environment began to dematerialize. I fell into the darkness with a falling sensation. You surely didn't want to stay there because it was a depressing and lonely environment. Abruptly, I found myself back in my body. A nurse hurried over as soon as I opened my eyes. "You are conscious," she cried. "Yeah, and I need to talk to you," I answered. She explained how concerned they had been about me and said she had to tell the doctor first. I felt bewildered and irritated. "Hold on," I said. "Why am I in this place again? I was at home. I succeeded. My cosmic family was with me. What brought me back here?" Since I was certain that I had passed away and moved on, I was truly distressed. I got some good advice from the nurse. "Honey, you were in escrow, but the deal fell through," she added. "You're going to have to accept the fact that you're back with us." In retrospect, I see how powerful those remarks were. It's easy to lose touch with daily life after such an encounter. However, as many spiritual teachers say, you must chop wood and carry water. Keep up with the day-to-day activities of life. We have a greater mission and are traveling. Our responsibility is to return to our life and take advantage of the events that are intended for us. You may be curious about that gloomy spot I briefly visited. What was its objective? I think it is our responsibility to generate our own vibration. When we lead egocentric, cruel, or low-energy lives, our vibration corresponds with those lower planes. If we abandon our bodies in that condition, we will remain there until we figure out where we went wrong and how to improve our vibration. But not forever. We are wonderful, limitless creatures. Even people who talk about going through hell frequently escaped. I had heard about a woman who spent weeks in a coma. She escaped that terrible spot right away as she began singing a spiritual hymn she had heard at church. Raising your frequency and realizing your true nature are crucial. The well-known psychic Edgar Cayce explained something similar. To keep himself safe, he would follow a speck of light when he left his body for readings. As he ascended a stairway, he would pass creatures wearing lighter robes. The lowest levels featured distorted beings and were terrifying, but he would reach higher, more agreeable realms if he followed the light and ascended. Michael Newton, a researcher on life between lives, discusses how we discover our true selves via several lifetimes, understanding that we are everlasting and cannot be genuinely harmed. As we learn to die well, we have an easier time navigating these domains. Here on Earth, we all play a part in a highly convincing play that is an illusion. However, we don't want to return here after we get home. What we refer to as death is entirely outdated. It's a lovely transition rather than an ending. It's a fantastic instant enhancement. No one has died that we are aware of. They've just continued on their journey, and we'll see them again. For them, everything is better than we could have imagined. You know, I was really transformed by this event. I came back to work as a paramedic with a fresh outlook. Every patient I cared for and every life I attempted to save became more significant. I was confident that their essence or true self would be all right, even if I was unable to save their physical form. With a conviction I had never had before, I found myself consoling the relatives of patients who were unable to attend. I could genuinely reassure them, looking them in the eye, that their loved one was in a better place. Naturally, I was unable to disclose that I could provide sincere consolation, but most people weren't prepared to hear the full scope of my experience. My relationships also changed. I grew more understanding and patient. The big cosmic dance I had seen made the small things that used to annoy me seem insignificant. My husband saw the change right away. He claimed that it was like living with someone else. Still me, but a happier, more laid-back me. Additionally, I discovered that I was drawn to spiritual activities like meditation. I wanted to relive the sense of openness and my connectedness to the cosmos that I had encountered. These exercises assisted me in maintaining my connection to that higher viewpoint, even though I was unable to completely recreate the intensity of my near-death experience. It wasn't all simple, though. There were moments when it seemed impossible to reconcile the difficulties of daily living with that sense of happiness. I experienced depressive episodes and yearned to get back to that place of unadulterated acceptance and love. It required effort and time to include my experience into my everyday life, in order to strike a balance between living life to the fullest in this world and remaining cognizant of the bigger picture. At first, I only told my family and close friends about my situation out of caution. They reacted differently. Some were obviously uneasy with the concept, while others were intrigued and some were doubtful. However, as I became more open, I made connections with people who shared my experiences. Finding a group of others that shared my experiences was really gratifying. My perspective on death underwent one of the biggest shifts. Please understand that I still make every effort to save lives in my line of work. However, I no longer fear dying, either for myself or for other people. I see it as a coming home, a transformation. I've been able to be more present and helpful to patients and their families dealing with end-of-life circumstances as a result. Additionally, I've grown more aware of how everything is interconnected. My sense of the cosmic web, in which everything was a part of a larger whole, has translated into a deeper empathy and accountability in my day-to-day activities. I find that I care more about other people's well-being, am more involved in environmental issues, and am more conscious of how my activities affect other people. To be clear, though, I'm not flawless. I still have my shortcomings, my angry outbursts, and my terrible days. The distinction is that I can now take a step back and view these difficulties from a wider angle. They present chances for development and education and are a part of the human experience. I frequently pondered why I was returned. What essential tasks did I still need to do? I try to approach every day with the goal of bringing a little more love and understanding into the world, even though I don't have a definitive answer. The cumulative effect of living with more awareness and compassion may be the task, rather than any lofty goal. That's my narrative, then. I can't demonstrate it, and I don't expect everyone to accept it. However, I am aware of what I went through, and it has radically altered my perspective on life, death, and everything in between. All of us are on this journey together, and even if our routes may appear to diverge, I think we're all going to the same stunning end. We have the chance to grow, learn, and fall in love in the interim, and I believe that's the true blessing of being here. For more real near-death experience stories, please like and subscribe to this channel if this story resonates with you.